And good morning everybody, it's Dan Latto speaking. Today is Wednesday. It takes a little bit of time just to remember actually what day it is, what planet we're on, you know, it just takes a little bit of time. So today, welcome. We're going to talk to you about whether you're financially independent or whether you're ever going to be financially independent. Obviously for a lot of people that's where they want to get to, and that's like the holy grail as to where they want to get to. It's a nice warm day here in Spain. When I got dressed this morning, which is about 20 minutes ago, it didn't look as nice, so I put a long sleeve shirt on. That will get changed because I think we're going to burn up, and I've got jeans on. We'll be heading back to t-shirt and shorts I think today, because it looks like it's going to be a nice warm day, sort of 25 degrees ish, which is really cool. So in this Facebook Live, and if you're listening for podcast, then welcome, and if you are listening to this on the podcast, then come and join us in the Facebook Live group. Come hither, come join us, and then you can join in, and if you've got questions of that kind of thing, then we can go through them as well. So in this one we want to talk to you about financial freedom, financial independence, what it's like to get there, what it takes to get there, whether you're going to actually get there or not. So just before we start, I think it's worth just making sure that we understand the definitions, and depending on who you speak to, those definitions will change. Okay, there's only a couple of levels really. So the first one is being financially, let me rephrase that, being financially dependent. I couldn't get my words out there. So number one, financially dependent. Now this might be a lot of people. Financially dependent actually refers to those people who are having to get up this morning and go and get a job. That was me, what am I, 45 now, so that was me 16 years ago. My last job ever was at Dell, and I left there at the age of 29. I retired, I suppose. The first time round, I've done it twice now. The first time round I didn't have kids, and when you have kids you find you can't afford it, so you have to go back and do something. But I never went back into a job. I went back into a business, a lettings agency that we built up and then we sold later on. But whilst I was in a job, I was financially dependent on the income from the job, because if that income from that job stopped, my income stopped. I had nothing else to come in. I mean, actually, as it happens, we'd been investing from the age of 26 through to that age anyway, and it was just before my 30th birthday. So basically, those 4 years, we started investing anyway, and we were heading towards becoming financially independent, but we weren't financially independent. We were financially dependent. And you know, I'm sure you've done this, where you hate your job and you're at that point where you hate it so much that actually you just quit and you've got nothing else to go for, nothing lined up, but you hate your job so much. That's a really dodgy situation to be in, and I've been in that situation a number of times, and it's not a pleasant situation, and financially very risky just to leave a job and go into something else. Having said that, I always knew I'd get a job. I always knew that. I was always at the time employable. I would question my level of employability these days. I think I'm pretty unemployable actually, because I'm too argumentative. So but that's financially dependent. Okay, so then the next one is now there's two that I can choose from here. So which one do I want? Okay, let's go with financially independent. Financially independent. Now, being financially independent means basically you're not relying on a third party to generate your cash flow. Okay, so that third party basically means a job. It's not including property, and it's not including your own business, because they're yours. Okay, so let's say that you're running a business. Let's say that you sell sausage rolls from a little wheelbarrow thing that you take to festivals, and you sell, you know, 200 a day, and you make £200. Sorry, 200 a day, and you make £2 per sausage roll. That's 400 quid. You do that every week, 1600, brilliant, and your outgoings are 1,000, let's say. You're 600 up every month, but you're financially independent. You're working for yourself, and if one person, one customer decides not to buy a sausage roll, your life and livelihood isn't dependent on that individual or not. Whereas when you're financially dependent, if your boss doesn't like what you've sold or what value you bring to the company, then they can get rid of you. So being financially independent basically means that you are independent of a specific third party. So if you're running a business, even if you're working 80-hour weeks and 100-hour weeks and 120-hour weeks, there's only 168 in a week, but I've been there too. But even if you're in a business and working all those hours, you're still financially independent. Your boss is even worse, because you are your own boss, and there's, you know, if you're your own boss, there's nobody worse than your own boss if you're having to put in all those hours, because then you make yourself feel guilty, and you know, you're not very good at giving yourself a pat on the back and that kind of thing. But that's financially independent. And most people right now watching this and listening to the podcast, you're either financially dependent because you're in a job, or you're financially independent because you're working in a business, but you're working so many hours that you're looking for something extra as a method of getting out of that. So the third one then, and we can keep going here, but the third one, which is the one I'm going to stop at, is being financially or financial freedom. So financial freedom basically means, and this is where I am right now, okay, so I'm not financially dependent on a specific boss. I am financially independent as well, because all my money comes from elsewhere, like for example my businesses, okay? So I'm not relying on my income from a specific boss, but I do rely on some income from different businesses. But I'm also financially free, so I've achieved financial freedom, which basically means that if all my income stopped from business, let's say, the cash flow still comes in from the property, okay? Now it's not as much money as if I'm working the business still, but if I went ill or incapacitated in some way, I would still have a certain level of financial freedom. There's a risk at that, however, because I'm still responsible for maintaining that financial freedom. So right now, although we had a lettings agency, and we actually sold that for personal reasons to do with breakdown of our relationship and that kind of thing, too much emotional connectivity to that old lettings agency. At some point in the future, we're likely to buy another lettings agency, and although we're very efficient right now, you know, we just use a handyman and we just use a cleaner to manage the entire portfolio. At some point that's going to stop, and we'll just put it in the hands of a lettings agency. Right now I'm too tight for that, because you know, paying 10% to a lettings agency where they've got a 20-year-old kid to phone me up to say that the boiler's gone, when I might as well just get the tenant to do it. It makes no difference to me, that, do you know what I mean? And I'm too tight for it. But at some point we're going to go and buy our own lettings agency, and the lettings agency will be a business that generates cash flow and also gives me more freedom. So I am more disassociated from Bob, who's living in a property and not paid his rent. I won't even care. So we've not done that yet, and we're highly likely this year or next year to go and do that. But where we want to get you to is financial freedom. So the next step is, like, I don't know what we would call number 4. I'm tempted to say it's financial irrelevance, or don't care, because you literally don't care because you've got assets that are generating cash flow. Like for me, my property generates cash flow, and we're investing in stocks and shares as well. Because the problem with property is that it's not a hands-off asset that generates cash flow like stocks and shares. You have more control over property, which is why we got into it in the first place. But if 5 tenants decide not to pay, you know, I've got to step in and resolve that as an issue. But if it's a stock market, and you know, I'm invested in the FTSE 100, and M&S drops out. I don't know if M&S is in, but assume they drop out. I noticed we're closing 100 stores recently, was the statement that came out from them. But you know, if they drop out, then somebody else goes in on that spot. So it's like just being in a situation where even if you are incapacitated, the dividend still comes in from those. So that's the next level here, and I don't really know what we'd call that because I didn't think that bit through. But the reason I didn't think it through is because that's not where we want to focus right now. Because the amount of money that you need there is significant. You know, if you're getting a 6% yield on stocks and shares, and you want to do £60,000 a year, what is that? That's not 100. That's £1 million in stocks and shares at 6%. Will give you just 60 grand. That's not a huge amount of money, is it? You know, to generate. Whereas you put £1 million in property, you are set for life. But then actually, what you might want to do is put 700 grand into property and 300 grand into a lettings agency. So then actually you're out of this and you actually have financial freedom. I need to go buy some new pens, by the way. Yeah, so then you've got this financial freedom. So the question is, like, how are you going to get there, and how do you know? Okay, so let's just follow through the steps here, because this is really important for you guys to understand. So the first step to understanding if you're ever going to be financially free is, number one, how much do you need? So the how much do you need question is how much are your expenses each month. Now most people don't actually know, and I know this to the penny. I know exactly what's what. I've got budgets lined up. So let's run through the type of expenditure that you're going to have. So you're going to have regular monthly outgoings via direct debit and standing order. So you've got regular. And this would be things like mortgage, or it would be things like your mobile phone. It might be your car payment, your car insurance payment. So it goes out regularly every month. And then the next one might be irregular stuff. So this is things like food, for example. It might be petrol. It might be meals out. It might be entertainment. But this is one of the reasons why people are not financially independent. It's because they actually don't know whether they're going to have enough money at the end of the month or not, because they don't know how much you're spending on food and they don't know how much you're spending on petrol. So what we suggest you do, and it's not a suggestion, by the way, if you want to be financially independent, then this is what you have to do. Like, it can be a suggestion, but if you don't do it, you are not going to be financially independent. It's as black and white as that. And we say this to as many people, and they go, oh no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, but hang on a minute, are you financially free? And we go, no. Right, shut up then. Do as I say, and then you get the result. Okay, so it's like, if at first you don't succeed, do as your coach says. So, so what we want to do is turn those irregular things, and just wipe that out, into budgeted things. Now, people hate that word budget because it feels like they have to constrict their expenditure, but the word budget in this example doesn't mean a constriction of your expenditure. It's just allocating an amount for that expenditure. So for example, if you're spending money on petrol, well, how much money do you spend on petrol? You might go, well, it depends. Sometimes it's 150, sometimes it's 250. Great, let's call it 250 quid then. Call it 250 pounds. Petrol. What about your food? How much do you sorry, let me just do that. Petrol. So food, how much do you spend on food? And we go, well, I don't know. Sometimes it's £35 a week, sometimes it's £50 a week. Great, so let's call it £200 a month. Let's go to the top level and let's put in £200 food. Now, by the way, if you're on week 3 and you've already spent £200 on food, or you spent £175 on food and you're in week 3 and there's no more food left in your house, the beauty of this is, you know, you've got £25 left. You can change your shopping habits. If that means you live on, you know, you buy a sack of potatoes and, you know, a 6-pack of beans, and that's what you're going to live on for the next week, then fine, that's what you have to live on for the next week, because that's part of your budget allocation. And conversely, if you've only spent, say, £150 on food, you've now got £50 left, and, you know, it's the last couple of days of your month, then great, you've now got £50 to spend available on food. Now you can make a decision as to what to do with that. You could put that into a credit card and pay down some credit card debt. You could put that into just buying puddings. I love, by the way, this is how much of a tight ass I am. So we'll go to a restaurant, really nice, and you get full, you've had starters, you've had mains, and you're looking at the pudding, and I can't help it, but you look at the price. And it's like, the price is like £5.50 for a pudding. Now, I'm working that out in my head. I'm going to get a little slice of cheesecake for £5.50, or I can go to Tesco's, I can buy the whole bloody cheesecake for £5.50 and let that last all week. That's what I'm off to do. But I can't help myself. It's just tight northerner. And, you know, budget-wise, I'm very consciously aware as to where all my money goes, right? And this is part of being financially independent, being financially free, is that you set budgets and you adhere to those budgets. So that 50 quid, you could just go and buy 10 puddings at £5 each, stick them in the freezer or whatever, or you could do whatever. You could go to charity, you could do whatever. The point is that once you've got a budget and then it's starting to be allocated, you've then got better decisions. Whereas if you're just spending the money that's in your account, you don't know, how can you make a decision based on whether you know if you've got any money left or not? Like, you might have money left in, but if you don't know you've got money left in, you don't know how to spend it. So you've got to have a budget in place to allocate. And it's the same with petrol. If you've only spent £200, take the £50 out, put it in a jar somewhere and have that as a savings jar, a holiday jar. You know, if you are saving for a holiday, is you aware that you can drop your petrol down £50 and your food down £50? You're now saving £100 a month times 12, and that's £1,200. Can you go somewhere on holiday? Well, can you get to Ibiza for a week on 1,200 quid? Probably. Can you get to Spain for a week on 1,200 quid? I know Ibiza is in Spain, but I live in Spain, so mainland Spain. So yes is the answer. You could have a nice holiday for a week and get out, you know, some time in the sun and so on. So, and you've done that just simply because you've actually budgeted. And even if it's £25 off petrol and £25 off food and then 25 quid off the next thing and 25 quid off the next thing, you've still got £100 a month that you're then able to save up and go on a holiday next year. And so that's why we do it like that. And that actually, I'll give you a real life example. We were going to go to America this year, and it was all very last minute, and we decided not to, because one of the things that we want to do is we want to have something to look forward to. And when you book it, because that's the enjoyment, right, is in the anticipation, the hope of looking forward to something. And it's like a month away, 2 months away. So we were like, oh, let's not do that. Let's book it next year and let's allocate some money. Let's put £300 a month into a holiday. Over 12 months is 3,600. It's 1,500 quid on flights, 2 grand for a week in the States. Fine. Like, we might actually spend a little bit more while we're there, but that's the amount that we'll have saved up. Now we could put 400 or 500, it makes no difference, it could be £100. But the key is then that we've actually got some money set aside to go on that holiday. Like, that's what being financially independent means. It means planning and budgeting and working out where you're going to get to. And I tell you, it's an awful lot of fun when you do it, especially when you come from where we've come from, which is not a lot of money at all. You know, we've struggled with money at various times in our life. And so being able to do this, and I think also sometimes that's the problem, is we don't forget where we've come from. And so that actually stops us moving forward and enjoying. You know, if I go to the shops to buy some clothes, I'm a nightmare. I really struggle. Even though we've got the cash, I've struggled buying clothes because I'm like, 50 quid on a shirt. That 50 quid could go towards buying some cryptocurrency or some stocks and shares or something. And so, you know, that tight-ass northernness of it serves me well, it won't serve me for that next stage. If we're spending Facebook ads, you know, 50 quid on Facebook ads, oh, I'm not spending that. Whereas, you know, if we're getting 25 pence a click, that's 200 people going to your website. So that's maybe 12 people signing up, and we'll close one of those people, make £1,000, whatever, right? So does that make sense? So, but it all starts from you having a budget. So what else have you got in terms of expenditure that goes out? So we've got like kids, let's call that £100 a month on kids. What else have you got? So we've got petrol, food, entertainment. Although actually entertainment comes in regular every month to some extent. So I include entertainment as being things like Netflix, your Wi-Fi subscription, that comes in as regular. But you know, going out, let's just call it going out, that could be £100 a month. You might be going, Dan, how do you go out on £100 a month? We live in Spain, dude. we could go out on £100 a month in Spain. We went out for a meal, some friends came over, and our meal, including all the food and drinks, was €20. And that's euros, not pounds. That's like 16 quid. So we can do it, you know. But if we lived in England, that might have to be like 500 quid. And actually I was talking to one of my clients about that, and she went through this, and finally she did it after asking her for months, and she went through and did it, and she was like, oh my gosh, I spent £550 on entertainment last month. I don't even remember being entertained. I don't remember going out. I don't remember seeing anything at the cinema. I don't remember going out for a meal. And so she cut that right down to £200. She's now saved £300 a month, which is 3,600. There's a holiday right there. It's crazy, but because it's not written down, people don't know what their expenditure is. Now, it's up to you to work out. There's a spreadsheet that we've just uploaded into the files section in the Facebook group on the Wealth Creation Strategies group. Come and join it if you're not in it, and if you are watching from there, then great, go to the files section, it should be in there, and it's like cash flow, it's a spreadsheet, you can download it and it starts you off. Like other regular things might be, like on there, for example, I'm just going off memory, we've got HMRC, so you want to put some money in towards your tax if you're financially independent, or if you're running a business, you want to put your money into tax so you're not getting hit every year with a big tax bill that you then can't afford. But working out how much you need, so let's just say this is £2,000. Brilliant. So that's step one, we actually know how much money we need. Let me rub this off so I've got a bit more space. And you've got a mixture of regular outgoings and outgoings that will be, you know, various prices. There's a name for it in business, I forget what it's called. Regular, or fixed and variable. Fixed costs and variable costs. There you go. Been a while since I've said that. So how much do you need? So let's say you need £2,000. Okay, so then it's like being financially independent. What do you need to earn that £2,000 a month? And by the way, £2,000 a month just covers your bills. That's not including, you know, an extra £2,000 for fun, for savings, for investment purposes. But let's just go with £2,000 for now, so that you're financially independent. So the next bit then is how are you going to go out and earn £2,000? Now I love this. So it could be 10 people at £200 a month. There's your £2,000. It could be one person at £2,000 a month. It could be 100 people at £20 a month. Let's put some pound signs in here so you can see. It could be 20 people at £100 a month. It could be 2 people at £1,000 a month. It could be 200 people at £10 a month. It could even be, obviously, 2,000 people at £1 a month. Okay? So, where does the income come from? Now, let's just change that up a little bit. Let's just put it here. So let's say that this was property, and you found a property, and that pays, oh, let's just do it easy. Let's do £400 a month on a property. Well, you only need 5 of those. Now, actually, really, you probably want a sixth, because if you've got £400 a month, what if one of the properties goes empty? You know, when you're first getting started, and if you've got 5 properties and one property's empty, you've got a 20%. What's the word? Not eviction rate. A 20% emptiness rate. I forget what the word's called. Void is the word I was looking for. So that's the problem. But when you look at this matrix right here, can you go out and find 10 people that are going to pay you £200 a month? Well, maybe. What can they pay you £200 a month for? Now, a lot of people do this, but they do it into hourly rates, so which doesn't work, you see, because, well, it does work, but you're literally exchanging time for money. So if it's £10 an hour and £2,000, that's 200 hours, that's 50-hour weeks to earn £2,000 a month. Not taking into account any tax or anything like that as well, you see. So, but the first step is always, how much money do you need? Then the next step is working out, where does the money come from? And then the next bit from that, when you're moving from, so being financially dependent, and then you become financially independent, and then you move towards financial freedom. So financial freedom down here is all this income. It's not quite enough. That's why you want the extra £2,000. That extra £2,000 here, so you're earning £2,000 to cover all your basic costs, and then on top of that, your aim is to earn another £2,000. That extra £2,000 goes into starting to buy assets. And remember what we said in previous ones, if you've got less than £70,000 in the bank account, you are the asset that you need to be spending this £2,000 on. And this really annoys me. It's crazy. People refuse to spend this money on themselves, and we're going, yeah, but I need to put money into assets, so I'm going to buy some stocks and shares. We've had people, you know, where they come on a strategy call and they're like, well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Dan, but the wife wants wardrobes. And they've gone and they've spent that money on wardrobes, and this was last year. But guess where they are in 12 months? They've got pretty wardrobes. That's it. Nothing else has changed. Whereas actually that money, and it might be 2, it might be 5, it might be 10, it might be 20 grand, right? It might be 1,000, it might be £300 to go on a rent-to-rent course that was on last week. Whatever that is, that has to go into you. And you have to keep pumping that money into you so that you're so skilled up and you have the sales abilities and the marketing abilities to improve where this money comes from here. You're so skilled up at that this £2,000 a month turns into £4,000 a month, and then turns into £6,000 a month, and then turns into £8,000 a month. And if you're spending £2,000 a month on personal development still, that's great. You've still got the final £6,000 to go put into the financial, whoops, there we go, 6k. You've still got the £6 a month to move into assets and that kind of thing. But that's why you need to be doing the coaching, so that you understand where it goes. Most people will just take that and buy some Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's up and down, up and down, up and down. Or they might buy stocks and shares at 6%. Well, what's 6% going to get you on £6,000? Not a lot. So, in fact, 10% would be what? £600. Well, £600. What's that going to get you? It's not going to get you a huge amount. £600 a year as well as that. That's like £50 a month. Well, what's that going to get you? Can you be financially independent on that? No. Maybe you want to put that into Facebook ads, which will then wipe this up. The matrix of where your income's going to come from. But it's about understanding what all this looks like from a top-down view. First of all, work out how much money you actually need. Second of all, work out where that money's going to come from. And third of all, work out where the investment is going to go. So you remember the 3 rules on podcast number 1. Cut your costs. This is cutting your costs, working out how much you need. So you allocate it. Number 2 was generate cash. That's what this one is. Okay? And then number 3, invest the rest. And that's what the financial freedom looks like, because you're now living off your money that's been invested. And so that's how we get you through all 3 different stages. Alright, I think that will do us for today. I think I'm just about to sneeze as well. So I'll finish the podcast just before I finish. So that's it. That's where you need to be. If you've got any questions about this, come and speak to me, drop me a line, and then we'll speak to you on the next video about it. Alright, my name's Dan Latto. Have a great day. Take care.